Hello again. Did you miss me? Thank y'all for coming back. You're so sweet to keep coming back, even though some of these end up being just a verbal dump of the things that come into my brain. The good news is you never know what might come out next. In this lesson, we're going to take a look at probability. Probability is the chance that something could happen. That's what it boils down to. Let me get sound a little fancier. The chance that an event occurs. That's all it is. You guys look at probability every single day. You know that when your alarm goes off in the morning and you hit the snooze button, you very briefly, you may not even realize you did it, but you very briefly think, okay, if I hit the snooze button, what's the probability of me getting to class late? And you really quickly weigh your options. And usually the snooze button wins. But anyway, I guess I jumped the gun a little bit. We're just going to slide this down. Right down in there. Pretend I meant to put it there. When you check the weather in the mornings, thankfully now it's not like in the Stone Age where we had to sit and wait for the local on the 8s from the Weather Channel. You can check your phone and see the chances for rain, whether or not you need to take an umbrella. You weigh the probability of passing a test given that you have only studied for 15 minutes. Newsflash, it might not be real high. So you interact with probability every day, you just don't realize it. When we talk about probability, we like to talk about things being equally likely to happen. What that means is every event that's being considered has the same probability of happening. And while we're talking about that, that brings up the idea of a fair coin or a fair die. That doesn't mean you died without cheating. That means that you are equally likely to get heads or tails. I probably should put that somewhere else. Or on a die, you are equally likely to roll 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. And some of you don't have a whole lot of experience with the world yet, and that's okay. I've got more experience with the world than I like to admit sometimes, and yet still less than others. But when we say a fair coin or a fair die, you even will see a fair deck when we're talking about cards. And what that means is it hasn't been altered. So there are people in this world, smarter than I am, who can take a die and drill in to one of those little dents in the side of a die. And they will either put a weight or hollow it out so it's lighter than the other sides. Either way, they alter the chances of that face showing up. The same thing can be done with a coin through sanding. You make one side a little lighter than the other. Makes it more likely to show up. Maybe the deck of cards doesn't get shuffled and the dealer has it set up in a certain way that they benefit from it. So those are not necessarily fair. So that's what we mean by a fair coin, a fair die, or a fair deck of cards. Now, when we talk about probability, we said it's the chance that an event occurs. Well, we're going to fancy that up a little bit, make that a little more specific. We are going to refine that a little bit to say the number of ways an event can happen divided by the total number of ways I don't like the way I said that. Back up. The ways a desired event. I like that better. Divided by the total events that can happen. I like that better. So this total number of events part right here, this guy, the denominator of our fraction, is what we call our sample space. This is the total number of things that can occur. So, for example, if we roll a die, our sample space, and we're going to put it in curly braces, would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Those are the possible outcomes you could get when you roll a die. Let's say you flip a coin. Your sample space is heads or tails. That's it. No more. So those are examples of sample spaces. When we talk about events, an event is any of these outcomes that we want to happen. We're going to call it our desired outcome. We have two kinds of desired outcomes. We have a simple one. A simple outcome is one thing happening. So, you flip a coin. You pull a sock out of a drawer. Maybe you draw a marble out of a bag. You roll one die. A compound event means we want more than one thing happening. So maybe you roll a die and draw a card. Maybe you flip a coin and you spin a spinner. And y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like the twister thing where you spin the arrow when it tells you where to put your foot. That kind of spinner. I don't know why I separated those. So those are compound events. We already talked about the formula. There are going to be a few that we use. Officially, the probability of our event, most of the time, we'll call it event A, is the number of ways A can happen divided by the total things that can happen. AKA your sample space. Some of these we will change as we go through the problems, but for right now, those are the definitions, the terminology, the things that you need to be successful.